Hello everyone, welcome back. Have you ever watched a predator who believed they were entirely untouchable finally collide with the absolute, devastating weight of cosmic justice? You watched them carelessly destroy pure souls through relentless, intimate betrayals, arrogantly convinced that their physical conquests carried zero biological consequences. But the universe has a chillingly exact memory. We are conditioned to believe that the abuser always walks away completely unharmed, gliding effortlessly from one innocent victim to the next. You watched them project absolute invincibility, treating deep human intimacy as a highly disposable game. They left you to desperately pick up the shattered pieces of your broken reality. But true cosmic justice is never actually blind. For years, they ruthlessly fed on your brilliant, divine light while secretly engaging in profound physical deceit. They used their charming seduction as a highly effective, spiritual life support system. Every single time they maliciously broke you down through their hidden betrayals, they absorbed your pure vitality to mask their own internal, rotting, and highly toxic decay. But there is a definitive, unbreakable limit to divine tolerance. When the ultimate creator finally intervenes, permanently severing that highly toxic energetic cord, the abuser is suddenly left entirely exposed. Without your radiant, pure energy to constantly sustain their heavy illusion, their physical vessel immediately begins to forcefully, violently reject its own dark poison. This is not a mere coincidence. It is a profound, biological reckoning. The exact moment God firmly closes the door to protect your spirit, a mysterious, undeniable, and fatal illness begins to rapidly consume the narcissist. It is a terrifying affliction born directly from their reckless physical indulgence, a heavy manifestation of the massive psychological rot they hid away. They suddenly find themselves violently trapped in a failing body, frantic and terrified of the medical diagnosis they can no longer manipulate or deny. Doctors run endless tests, revealing a deeply terrifying physical collapse rooted in their darkest, most secretive behaviors. They are desperately trying to scientifically cure what is, in absolute reality, a severe spiritual rot. You must completely unlearn the devastating lie that their abusive, deceitful actions carried zero physical consequences. Their sudden illness is a direct, undeniable reflection of the immense psychological torture they deliberately inflicted upon your pure heart. The suffocating anxiety and profound physical exhaustion they now constantly feel is the exact pain they forced on you. Today, we are aggressively ripping away the heavy, deceptive veil concealing this profoundly dark phenomenon. We will meticulously dissect the exact, agonizing timeline of this terminal, intimate disease. Prepare your mind to look directly at the raw, undeniable reality of what happens when divine intervention forces a highly malignant predator to consume their own toxic poison. Are you truly ready to permanently shatter the terrifying illusion of their untouchable physical power? It is time to step entirely out of the suffocating fog of their historical abuse and actively witness the bleak, inescapable reality of their ultimate cosmic punishment. Let us begin this intense, psychological deep dive into exactly why the arrogant abuser is now failing fast. The dynamic is violently flipping right before your very eyes. The untouchable predator is now a terrified, sickly prisoner, completely trapped in a biological cage entirely constructed by their own malice and deceit. You are no longer their victim. You are the divinely protected witness to their profound, inescapable ruin. Welcome to the terrifying reality of divine retribution. To truly comprehend this devastating biological collapse, you must first brutally dissect the deeply flawed psychology of the abuser. The narcissist operates entirely within a fabricated matrix of profound lies and severe delusions. They absolutely lack a solid, authentic internal core, meaning their physical existence heavily relies on consuming the pure energy of the innocent. They meticulously targeted your pure soul because their dark, internal void violently demands constant, chaotic stimulation. They arrogantly assumed they could comfortably engage in reckless physical betrayals indefinitely without ever facing the devastating, absolute cosmic consequences. Their massive, heavily inflated ego convinced their broken brain that they were untouchable. The narcissist views intimate physical connection as nothing more than a highly disposable currency. They use their body as a manipulative tool to violently extract temporary validation from a deeply hollow world. But this predatory reliance on massive external destruction was their ultimate, fatal vulnerability. They permanently flooded their physical system with toxic corruption. The abuser's mind is a chaotic, entirely inescapable battleground of severe, heavily suppressed terror. Their vicious cruelty toward you was merely a pathetic, desperate attempt to escape the horrifying void living entirely inside their own broken brain. They ignored every single internal alarm bell, actively choosing the path of maximum physical and emotional destruction daily. Every single time they deeply insulted you or orchestrated a massive, cruel physical betrayal in the shadows, their physical body absorbed a heavy, toxic shockwave. They willingly traded their own basic, fundamental health for a highly temporary, fake rush of supreme dominance. They entirely ignored the rapidly growing, fatal tumor of dark karma manifesting right inside them. This fatal intimate disease is the direct, physical manifestation of profound narcissistic mortification. It is an overwhelming sensation of intense, paralyzing shame and profound emptiness that violently hits them like a heavy, invisible heart attack of the soul. Their nervous system is entirely short-circuiting under the massive weight of their own undeniable, toxic reality. As the unexplainable physical symptoms aggressively begin to multiply, their deeply suppressed subconscious terror violently amplifies. They cannot stand the undeniable reality of a severe, creeping physical weakness they cannot successfully manipulate or gaslight. This sudden, deeply confusing biological betrayal entirely shatters their massive, fragile, heavily guarded fake ego. They desperately try to furiously mask their sudden illness, launching pathetic, highly orchestrated campaigns to project an illusion of total physical invincibility. But the absolute truth cannot be manipulated on a cellular level. The mirror now reflects a terrifying, rapidly decaying, sickly reality that absolutely no amount of arrogant grandiosity can ever successfully hide. Notice the intense, highly defensive aggression when they are forced to confront their severe, confusing physical limitations. They will aggressively lash out at doctors, violently accusing medical professionals of complete incompetence. This extreme, chaotic defensiveness is absolute proof of their deep spiritual terror. They realize earthly medicine cannot cure their dark soul. Their heavily corrupted internal machine is entirely breaking down. The massive, exhausting amount of psychological energy required to maintain their fragile, fake reality has permanently damaged their physical nervous system. They are entirely trapped in a vicious, terrifying cycle of unexplainable bodily deterioration, desperately chasing a fleeting illusion of healthy survival. The dramatic, completely inescapable turning point arrives when their highly synthetic fantasy of physical invincibility finally, absolutely fails. The arrogant narcissist eventually hits a terrifying biological and spiritual wall. The expensive doctors and desperate demands suddenly stop masking the profound, agonizing reality of their failing body. Their physical vessel is now a prison. They violently attempt to hoover you during this terrifying physical decline. They reach out in a sudden, desperate, midnight panic, seeking to aggressively plug back into their ultimate, divine power source. They expect your beautiful empathy to miraculously heal their failing, sick biology. This is their absolute most crucial, desperate survival test against divine, strict justice. But God has already permanently closed that heavy door. You have walked entirely through the burning fire of their severe abuse and forged a boundary of absolute, impenetrable iron. When they frantically try to manipulate you with their mysterious new illness, they are met with chilling, unshakable indifference. Your lack of reaction is a highly devastating, utterly lethal blow. This absolute, unwavering silence acts as a devastating psychological mirror, violently reflecting their pathetic insignificance right back at them. The sudden realization that they have permanently lost their grip on your healing soul triggers a massive, highly acute physical and mental collapse. They are forced to confront the horrifying, absolute death of their earthly control. The realization that you will not save them pushes their terminal disease into rapid, severe overdrive. The panic that ensues within their deeply corrupted, fragmented mind is intensely visceral and entirely consuming. The constant, crushing stress of trying to biologically survive this dark, undeniable physical affliction without your pure energy causes profound, highly visible decay. Their once calculated, terrifying rage becomes completely impotent and pathetically messy. They fiercely launch desperate, frantic smear campaigns, aggressively attempting to blame the universe for their sudden physical downfall. But the vicious attacks are totally transparent, weak, and absolutely reek of desperate, terrifying panic. The world clearly sees their pathetic reality. The shift in the profound, cosmic power dynamic becomes entirely absolute. You, the fiercely resilient empath, begin to safely see the undeniable, pathetic truth hiding perfectly behind their aggressive medical mask. You realize the terrifying monster you once deeply feared is actually just a miserable, broken, dying shell of a person entirely unable to escape their own karma. This profound realization instantly strips away the final, lingering remnants of their phantom power over you. They can absolutely no longer manipulate your deep, beautiful, spiritual empathy with fake medical emergencies. You are completely immune to their desperate, highly toxic projections of pain. The heavy, dark spell is permanently broken, replaced by pure, cold clarity. As your formidable boundaries remain perfectly intact, the narcissist experiences a terrifying sensation akin to sudden, violent spiritual suffocation. They deeply realize the profound well of your genuine empathy is permanently, entirely dry. They are biologically starving. The terminal disease aggressively feeds on this intense starvation, rapidly accelerating their total ruin. The magnificent, highly empowering twist of this dark narrative is finally fully revealed. The exact arrogance they aggressively weaponize to destroy your spirit has become the exact, undeniable catalyst for their final, absolute biological undoing. They defied the ultimate creator so completely that their own body has forcefully turned against them in a terrifying, poetic justice. The psychological and physical collapse now aggressively enters its final, darkest, and completely irreversible phase. The narcissist's daily life rapidly becomes a pathetic, deeply agonizing series of profound, unexplainable physical symptoms. People are instinctively repelled by their dark, heavy, intensely rotting aura. They are universally recognized as deeply cursed beings. They experience a total, horrifying, and complete fragmentation of the fabricated, godlike false self. The carefully constructed public mask violently shatters into millions of unrecoverable, deeply jagged pieces. The fake, arrogant confidence is violently replaced by a crippling, deeply paranoid, and entirely inescapable fear of absolute cosmic judgment and physical mortality. This is the sudden, brutal, and completely absolute death of the narcissistic ego preceding their physical demise. It is a profound, agonizing psychological obliteration. They become entirely unrecognizable from the arrogant, untouchable predator who once brutally tormented you without mercy. They are severely hollowed out, incredibly empty vessels trapped in agonizing terror. They desperately try to retreat further into absolute, suffocating isolation, attempting to hide their pathetic, undeniable physical deterioration from the unforgiving, highly observant eyes of the world. The locked bedroom becomes their entire pathetic universe. The terrifying, heavy silence of their lonely reality rapidly becomes a personalized, inescapable, dark torture chamber. Notice their complete, devastating, and entirely permanent lack of genuine spiritual peace. A true, resilient empath, even in the deepest, most agonizing pain, can eventually find profound moments of pure stillness and quiet grace. The collapsed, sickly narcissist will absolutely never know this comfort. Their internal mental landscape is a perpetually burning, fatal wasteland. The severe social consequences they inevitably face are brutally, intensely unforgiving. The shallow flying monkeys and weak, easily manipulated enablers who once heavily supported their dark, abusive reign eventually abandon the sinking, miserable, and diseased ship. The abuser is forcefully made to face the harsh, undeniable truth. Their entire life was built on fake lies. The physical toll of this massive spiritual collapse is deeply horrifying to witness. The constant, agonizing stress of maintaining their fragile delusions entirely ravages their sick body. They look completely hollow, deeply exhausted, and incredibly sickly. The outer shell is finally, perfectly reflecting the intensely dark, rotting, malignant corruption of their dark interior. There is a profound, undeniable, and cinematic justice in this horrific, sudden collapse. It is a terrifying, absolute testament to the universal, unbreakable law of spiritual gravity. You absolutely cannot constantly exploit the brilliant light of God's children without eventually burning your own physical body entirely alive. The massive cosmic debt has finally come due in full. They are entirely brutally forced to witness you safely moving on with your beautiful, divinely protected life. Even from afar, the undeniable glow of your genuine, hard-won healing deeply penetrates their dark, pathetic isolation. Seeing the empath beautifully thrive without them is the final, fatal, crushing blow. It undeniably proves they were the absolute, toxic sickness. The tragic, unavoidable end of the fiercely defined abuser is a chilling spectacle of total cosmic destruction. They laid cruel traps and burned bridges, only to realize too late they locked themselves inside a burning biological prison. The brutal destruction they originally intended for you became the exact, undeniable blueprint for their entirely inescapable, mysterious ruin. You must absolutely, firmly, and permanently stop carrying the heavy burden of their inevitable, tragic divine destruction. The profound empathy you possess is a sacred, beautiful gift, even if it was maliciously weaponized. Do not waste a single, precious drop of pity on the collapsing, miserable abuser. Their terrifying breakdown is a fully justified, undeniable consequence. Recognize the absolute, unshakable, and completely glorious truth right now. You did not cause their terminal illness. You simply, bravely stopped allowing them to violently infect your beautiful spirit. By establishing your ironclad boundaries and permanently surrendering them to God, you merely allowed their deeply poisonous nature to finally consume their own physical body. Your essential, beautiful journey right now is about intense, unapologetic, and fierce spiritual reclamation. Every single agonizing tear you shed in the dark was deeply watering the vital seeds of your ultimate, unbreakable psychological armor. The deep pain was horrific, but it forged a magnificent version of you that is completely impervious to their sick, dark manipulation. The narcissist's tragic, sudden biological downfall is your absolute, undeniable, and completely permanent spiritual liberation. As their false, fragile reality violently crumbles to ash, your authentic, beautiful life is finally allowed to spectacularly blossom. The heavy, suffocating, highly toxic fog they forcefully placed over your brilliant mind is lifting permanently. Do not look back at the horrifying, pathetic wreckage they have finally, undeniably become. The collapsing, deeply desperate abuser wants absolutely nothing more than to violently drag you down into the dark abyss of their sickness with them. Let them completely thrash in the absolute dark. Let them drown in the terrifying silence of their empty, pathetic, diseased souls. This profound, secret spiritual knowledge is your ultimate, impenetrable, and incredibly glorious shield. By deeply understanding the pathetic, incredibly fragile nature of their severe, hidden cosmic pathology, you entirely strip them of all their remaining phantom power. They are absolutely not powerful masterminds. They are deeply broken entities spiraling toward a dark end. Your incredible, beautiful survival is the greatest, most profound rebellion against their severe, highly calculated abuse. They desperately wanted you permanently destroyed, completely silenced, and totally dependent on their false, dark reality. By fiercely choosing to heal, by daring to genuinely thrive, you completely annihilate their entire sinister purpose. Joy is justice. The highly toxic, dangerous connection is permanently, utterly, and brilliantly severed by the ultimate hands of the universe. You are absolutely no longer their emotional, physical punching bag. You are a sovereign, magnificent survivor, glowing brilliantly with a renewed, entirely untouchable light. The deep scars you carry are profound battle wounds signifying true resilience. As the broken narcissist rapidly fades into total, miserable biological obscurity, slowly rotting away in the horrifying prison of their own dying body, you are beautifully beginning to rise. The intense contrast is deeply poetic and absolutely, perfectly just. You are safely ascending into a spectacular life of genuine joy, while they sadly choke on their own bitter, dark ashes. You completely survive the absolute psychological and spiritual slaughter. You bravely unmasked the terrifying monster, fiercely surrendered them to the ultimate creator, and successfully watched their grand illusion burn straight to the ground. They utterly destroyed themselves trying to maliciously break your pure spirit. Your brilliant light remains completely untouched forever.